Okay, ceasefire deal. We have Trump's envoy. I'll throw this up again. Goes over to meet with Netanyahu. There's this big, theatrical story about how it was, Stephen Witkoff goes and forces Netanyahu into a meeting where he's going to take this deal and everything's a-okay because Trump saved the day. Meanwhile, Biden goes and takes full credit for it. So now we've pit people against each other on who gets the real credit. But then we come to find out, as those of us who've been following all of the fake ceasefires from the past, according to Hotspot, this is Hotspot saying Israeli media is reporting Trump actually promised Netanyahu he would support Israel retroactively when they break the Gaza ceasefire and restart the war after signing the deal. It also included a gift bag offer of benefits, such as lifting sanctions on Israel's Pegasus spyware, as well as the IDF soldiers accused of war crimes. And then, of course, we find out, according to Al Jazeera English, and this is the big kicker, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said this cabinet will not meet as scheduled to approve the Gaza ceasefire deal, blaming Hamas for causing a last-minute crisis. And this is why we knew the whole time and why I tweeted out, anyone following the illegal occupation and genocide of the Palestinian people, plus all the broken ceasefire deals by Israel thus far, could have predicted this was going to happen next. Shaking my head. I will pass it over to you, Don DeBar. What are your thoughts on this major divide that Craig and I figured out? There's like three different camps maybe going at each other right now. What is your thoughts?
Put the poll up, though. Put the poll up.
Do you have it?
It's up there. Put the poll up. We had a quick poll. We said who's going to give credit for this, and I've seen more people give Donald Trump credit for this. This is 79 votes just into it. Who do you credit for the ceasefire that Israel won't honor, right? Because I believe it's not a ceasefire. It's just a pause. They always do that all the time. Even Barack Obama got one. 69.6% believe that Trump gets the credit. 6.3 for Biden, even though Biden kind of smirked and said, is that a funny question? Like, he got the ceasefire. The pro-Palestinian supporters like the PSL who are patting themselves on the back. But the one I would vote for, which is the anti-Zionist MAGA folk, and I have that other video. You can take it down now, Matt. I have that other video showing you that when Donald Trump put stuff on Truth Social saying who's the worst, America's worst enemy, overwhelmingly on Truth Social, his MAGA folk, it's in the private chat. If you ever want to play it, they say Israel. And like you said, he's a master, Don. You said he's a master of understanding, of reading the room, of manipulating the situation, taking advantage of a crisis or whatever, or co-opting it, whatever you want to say. His handlers or him know that they're getting pushback from MAGA folk. So they had to pull this theatrics to make it look like Donald Trump is doing something. And it all started with retweeting Jeffrey Sachs' tweet. It's bullshine, because at the end of the day, all the killing and looting, guess what? They're not going to pay for their war crimes, as they said in this ceasefire. And guess what? Everything they looted, they get to keep. This is theatrics to me, Don. Go ahead.
What are we talking about here, first of all, when we say ceasefire? Yeah. It's like, the U.S. Air Force agreed to a ceasefire in Nagasaki the day after they dropped the bomb. Gaza, there's a ceasefire in Gaza because there's nothing left to bomb and nobody left to blow up. They've been herded from one corner to another. A mobile, sort of confined mobile, refugee clique, homeless, and the land is more or less being set up for redevelopment. There were ads we saw a year ago in some of the newspapers in Israel, where they were planning to build luxury condominium, weekend homes.
Jared Kushner, right, Don?
Yeah. So, people close to Trump like that and elsewhere. More. First of all, if they stop shooting at each other for a while. That's going to be, in essence, a resupply, rearm, retrain, re-up. It's going to be like the Minsk Accords. It's going to be, at best, if it lasts that long. Doing these deals with Israel, we go back, if you Google Gaza's ceasefire and use a select date range, so for the last date in the date range, put the 2020, so before this whole thing, before October 7th, all of that, you'll see going back, 2008, Gaza ceasefire during the presidential election and in the interregnum between that and Obama being sworn in. Remember the two presidents at one time, so one president at one time, begging Israel for a ceasefire in Gaza. In other words, Israel, will you stop blowing up Gaza for a couple of minutes while we talk about what do you want to stop blowing it up? They'll say, okay, sure. And whatever it is they want the other side to do, they start to do it. And then Israel starts blowing them up again. Hospitals, schools, roads, water supply, electrical grid, whatever, houses. This is what's being discussed in these conversations about who gets credit, who gets blame, etc. The thing itself is like it's not even deck chairs on the Titanic. It's like polishing a deck chair on the Titanic now, 100 years after it sank.
On the bottom.
Yeah. I think that there's a few things that have to take place, and it's difficult to imagine when the international situation will be configured in a way that war crimes prosecutions can be brought against people that commit war crimes on a scale like this. There are very few nations, individuals, groups that can get away with a massive war crime like bombing a country into oblivion over a period of 2 years or whatever the hell it's been, a year and a half. Always that country, however, is an ally of the United States or the United States itself. No one else has the military capacity to do that, and the political standing in the world, in terms of geopolitical power, to operate in the world in the midst of doing that. If you look at what was done to the Soviet Union after the so-called invasion of Afghanistan, when they went into occupy Kabul to protect it, and the government there, at their request, from the army of terrorists that Zbigniew Brzezinski had organized in the countryside. Look at they turned the Soviet Union into an international pariah within months. Basically shut it down. It's global commerce, everything. And that was the Soviet Union. Who else is going to deal with Israel in any at any scale like that? Now, you've got an outstanding indictment at the ICC for Benjamin Netanyahu. Interestingly, one of the political developments in Israel is that on the right-wing side, on the people who are the most aggressive, are going to, and his partners in the coalition government are threatening to and may well pull out of the coalition if this agreement is signed, which it isn't yet, by the way. Everybody's talking about it like a done deal, but it's not.
It's not. It's
tomorrow.
not.
It's going to the Knesset tomorrow, and you also have the military has to sign off on it and others. If it goes through, they're yanking the support from Netanyahu, and he won't be prime minister, which means he won't be immune to criminal prosecution, which is going to be an interesting political condition for him with the ICC warrant, and for Israel also, since I assume he's going to be criminally prosecuted for the outstanding, indictments against him for, various corruption charges over the term of his being prime minister. And so if he's officially in the custody of the state of Israel, as opposed to being the, unreachable penultimate government official, I'd like to see how they relate to a warrant from The Hague or some other court order to deliver him on that. But outside of that, the discussion around the terms of a ceasefire are absurd. And anyone laying claim to that, they have to buy the whole banana. If you had the power before you became president to declare a ceasefire there, then you should have done it October 8th of 2023. Yeah. But, if your priority is to be elected president instead of to stop a slaughter, well, own that.
Yeah. Well, look, let's get back to the human element of it, because I think it's easy for us, because as you know, analyzing this and stepping outside of the emotional part of this, reminding people that we've been watching this genocide unfold in the palm of our hands every single day. We know that the world has been loaded in the streets with people for the rights of Palestine to not be murdered and wiped off the face of the planet. This is a voice echoing around the globe, and it's been like that for several months. So when we see this deal go down, let's get out of analytical mode for a second, and I'm gonna show you guys this is a celebration in the streets of Palestine, and this is the type of thing that pulls at the heartstrings, and makes us want to believe. This is where some sort of faith. I think this isn't stupidity. This isn't like, hey, you guys aren't paying attention. This is what happens when the human soul is crushed so hard that even an ounce of a possibility that the suffering will stop will cause this. And this is a celebration, and this is real. This is really happening right now. And so when I watch that, and I know, and I've seen responses to this type, and this isn't the only video out there. You guys can see these celebrations happening right now. And, you know, people like, you know, Caitlin Johnstone are commenting on this and saying, you know, I really want to believe this. I really do. And this is somebody, you know, Caitlin is just an example of somebody who's been on this the whole way, understanding the grandness of the empire and how the vastness of their ability to beat us at any point, that there's no hope. There's never been any hope. And she's been very real about that. And then you see these celebrations and you go, wait a minute, just wait a minute. Is this a time that we can at least get some hope to keep us alive so we don't lose all of our humanity? Because we've gotten so desensitized for months and months and months, and we just can't take it anymore. Can we at least pretend that Santa Claus is coming down the chimney tomorrow with some presents for us? Is that okay to allow them that space to have this right now? Or are we just going through another letdown that's going to be even more difficult to deal with when we realize that it's not anything? And I know I'm just kind of doing a philosophical thing here, but you guys, remember, these are human beings. This is a human story. This isn't just us looking at graphs and numbers and you know, patterns of behavior, you know, leading up to
absolutely. But I'll let Don answer first, and then I'll give my opinion about this after.
I mean, first, you know, the reality is these kids, for example, and whoever else is in the crowd there, these are people that have been, you know, hearing noise in the sky and watching things fall and blow up around them for, you know, since October 10th of 2023. I don't know, what are we now? 4 months, so it's like 16 months.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it might not rain bombs. Yay! And what the hell else is the response going to be? I can completely relate to that. When you're doing a political assessment of it, however, or a legal assessment of it, the fact is that the bombs did rain down from October 8th or 9th or 10th or whatever, and they killed probably 150,000 people, more than 100,000 people at this point, civilians, and 50, 60,000 children out of that. Destroyed the city, destroyed the ability to live in the city. Its entire infrastructure is shungad. The hospitals are gone. The water supply, sewer systems are gone. The electrical grid is gone. The housing units are gone. It's a nightmare. Somebody did that. That was the infrastructure that was constructed over the centuries to support the 2.5 million people that lived there. And that is, you got the 70 something years since 1948, where people started being packed into that area from the other parts of Palestine that they were being evicted from. So, there's a long history of pain and suffering that's been imposed, just like one step after another. Starting with terrorist attacks against civilians to scare them out of their villages in Palestine, to across the country and to smaller and smaller enclaves, and finally into since the '67 war or later, the '70s, into that strip. It's been described for decades or two now as the world's largest open outdoor prison camp.
Yep.
And then that gets bombed for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And these are the survivors standing on the land that'll still hold them. If it's going to stop today, hooray! Of course, you understand that.
Yeah, I think it's more to it than that too, as well. If you can throw me in the big screen, guys. I think one of the big things, the message that's being sent to as well, is that they took on this empire, right? Like, these are the people who stayed there. These are the people who fought. I think a lot of them people, Matt and Don, that they know, even the children, that this isn't over now. This is a pause. They're going to come at it again. And they want to show the Israeli regime that no matter what they try to do, they're still here. Yeah. Right? That we're still standing, we're still strong, and we're coming back. And something to kind of understand, when you see these young children, dancing, a lot of these children, they've lost loved ones, family ones, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, the whole 9 yards. And now Hamas has been able to recruit them to come in and fight against the Israeli regime that is coming back. So they're also trying to send the message. And believe you me, just because the population itself has been decimated, the celebrations, I believe, in 2014, the first time they had that war and that invasion of Gaza, and there was a lot more people in the streets than there were now. But they're not there just to celebrate thinking this is over. They're not naive. They're sending a message. And that message is that we're going to sit here, we're going to stand, we're going to fight. You're not going to run us off. We're here. And that's what they wanted, that message they want to send when they get out in the street. They're not as naive as you think they have. And they have every right to celebrate. They do.
Yeah,
not us. Not us.
I don't think they're naive at all. I don't think they're naive.
At all. They know
the children, but even the children, they're probably the least naive children on the planet at this moment.
Yeah.
But, right. I mean, they've had the naivety blown out of their lives. I think I just don't want to take too much pleasure out of, thank you for reifying my faith in the resilience of human spirit. I think what I want people to take home from that is, God damn it, get off your ass and put an end to this, because that's what they need us to do. Yeah. They're standing in there to fight. I think the only value they're showing us that has is to show us it can be done, so we do it too.
Yeah. Well, Don, I do have that video. It's a quick 1-minute video, Matt. If you can bring it up and let me play it real quick, because I think you're right. What do we have to do? And this is why I'm so critical of leftists that are celebrating Donald Trump and acting as if the Palestinian people, like Hamas won this. No, this battle is far from over. It's still going on. And yes, you have to give some love for Hamas doing what they're doing as far as fighting off the empire. But once again, I want to play this video because I think it points out the fact that a lot of people on the left think that a lot of MAGA folk are completely naive about what's going on. Just watch this video, and this will tell you who, in my mind, who pushed this rhetoric, this kabuki theater, for Donald Trump to make this move.
This is interesting and a little bit funny. Donald Trump has a social media site where he does polls, and it's interesting to see which way Donald Trump supporters vote and what they really think and feel. What is the biggest threat by far to freedom in America? 5% said Russia, 25% said radical Islam, and 67% said other. 2/3 of Donald Trump supporters said other. Well, who is the other? Here's a screenshot of most people's answers right there. And I took a screenshot of the nice ones. A lot of Trump supporters said the same thing, just less politely worded. And here's another one. Who is the worst enemy to America? 6% of Trump supporters said Russia, 27% said the Panda Bears, 12% said Iran, and 55% said other. That's more than half of Trump supporters. But now who is the other? Here's a screenshot. And again, I took a screenshot of the more politely worded ones. I was telling about this polling that right-wing and left-wing polling data shows to perceive the same enemy. So the division is not horizontal anymore, left-wing, right-wing. It's bottom versus top, people versus government. And that's a good thing. We want right-wing and left-wing on our side. And it's also telling that Trump knew the answer to this, but did not take these polls down.
Wow. Right? So right now, I think this is why I've been critical of leftists who are out there celebrating and promoting Trump, Even Glenn Greenwald, right? And there's a few other of them I mentioned out there. No, that's BS. This is kabuki theater. The ceasefire is not a ceasefire. They never ceased to fire, never since to stop firing. It's since 1946. This has been going on. It's just a pause. Right now, if we have a lot of MAGA folk, and I said this before, I never thought in my whole life, Don, Matt, that I would not support and love Bernie Sanders. He was so on the top of the hill for me. Tulsi Gabbard, too, as well. And it's almost sad to see the way Bernie Sanders has fallen, right? Because he capitulated to power. The more Donald Trump continues to lie to his base, the more he, deceives them. And this is what he's doing right now. And that's how they feel. A lot of them, they came out about the HB1 visas. They felt like, Donald, what are you doing? You're going back on your word. Wait, Ukraine, you're going back on your word. The more they do this, the quicker it will be to abandon him. And we have something to play off right here where even his folk are saying, no more with the Zionist regime. I think that's the opportunity. So we have to be true to our words and point out this kabuki theater we see in front of us and stay focused on the topic of how the Zionists run our country regardless of who's at the top of the ticket.
Man, that's we're gonna clip that one, Craig. We're gonna put that out there. We're gonna do that as soon as we can. There it is. You summed it all up. I 100% with you, Craig. And I like we start from Bernie because we know we have to educate our fellow MAGA friends. We have to educate our fellow. I guess you also call them the Make America Healthy Again people, because these are good people that want something to happen because they believe it can happen. We've been there. We've done that. We have to share with them our experience of how the person we thought could lead us completely failed us, and we have to tell them. And now is the time to hold that person accountable, hold that thing accountable, because that's all you can do right now. That's the only thing we have as of Monday. That's 4 days from now. That's all we're going to have is that thing that we have to do everything we can to hold that thing accountable. Or what do we have? We have nothing.